Welcome to Below Guilt, where we talk everything finance and business. Today we're going to be talking about debt and why you should avoid it. Okay, first things first, right? I am not saying that you should completely avoid debt. There are situations where debt is okay, but on average, most people are in debt, and that debt can have serious consequences on their lives, not just on them alone, but it can affect their marriages, children, and even other people who are not even related to them. Debt brings short-term success but long-term problems. The short-term success could be that you want to buy a car and you apply for a loan from the bank or from any other eligible financial institution. Though you have taken a loan to buy that car, you might not have to purchase it with debt because you can buy it through installments, and the bank loan might be, let's say, half of the money you use to purchase the car. Unless you are using your own money or savings, the other half you use to purchase the vehicle could be additional debt, meaning that you borrowed money from someone else or elsewhere besides the bank. So although you have successfully bought the car, you will still be in debt to your bank and the other financial institutions or people that you've borrowed from. You might be able to pay back the bank in a reasonable space of time, such as 3 months or even a year, but that's not usually the case with most people, and that can also bring on some additional debt like interest on the loan that you currently have. This might not only be for the bank, but it could apply to the other possible loans that you have taken. Let's say you did not buy the car on installments, but instead you took a bank loan that can cover you for the entire purchase of the car. You still owe the bank and your car is the collateral. So if you miss out on your loan payments, your car might be repossessed by the bank in order to fulfill the debt that you owe. About 2.2 million cars are repossessed every year in the United States, according to Title Lonza. So that means about 5,400 cars are repossessed every day, and about 226 per hour and 4 per minute. This explains why people like the Repo Reaper always have new content. The Ford F-150 and the Chevrolet Silverado are the most repossessed trucks in the United States, with the Honda Civic and the Honda Accord being the most repossessed cars as well in the United States. These are normal everyday cars which are inexpensive, unlike supercars such as the Lamborghinis and the Rolls Royces. So if you're going to be buying a usual ordinary car, it is better that you make a budget and you buy the car in cash. A lot of people in the United States are used to a culture of debt, which is not entirely limited to the purchase of cars. They purchase things such as houses which are bought with mortgages, jewelry, engagement rings, and even things like cell phones. Besides that, debt can also be created through things like events which include gender reveals and weddings. People don't mind getting into debt just for one occasion, for example, things like the aforementioned weddings. Some can spend up to $50,000 just for their wedding day. Obviously, this depends on the yearly income of the couple that is getting married. Although there are other things such as contributions that can come from both sides of the family, this is not always the case. Most people who are in debt, especially with possessions such as cars or houses, are mainly owers and not owners. This is mainly a trend or lifestyle in the West, but in places such as Africa, this is not the case. I know your first assumption might be that it is because people in Africa are poor, but that is a bit far from the truth. While it is true that the cost of living in most African countries is really high compared to the amount of money people make, not everyone in Africa is affected by this. Most people in Africa live in a home that is their own and they do not owe the bank or anyone else. Sure, some of the houses might have been bought through a mortgage, but that's usually homes that were bought decades ago. This means that inflation did not affect them as much as it affects us today. In countries such as Zimbabwe, a lot of people own a car. Though most of the cars they own are used imports from Japan and elsewhere, the point remains that they own their cars. And anyways, the used car market has been a growing one, not just in Africa, but even in countries such as the United States. We live in a world that is moving fast and has an increase in social competitions thanks to social media. Many people want to have the latest or the best of everything, but my advice is that instead of trying to get the best and latest for your social rivalries, endure steady growth. Instead of buying the latest model, buy an older car model. The reason is because a car can take you from point A to point B. Sure, it might not be the latest, but regardless, it still functions the way a car should. If you cannot afford to buy a house, you can rent out an apartment or a house in an affordable area. Unless it is absolutely necessary for you to move to an expensive area, then you can do so. Debt does not only affect you, but your family as well. According to CNBC, 54% of people in the United States believe that having a partner who has debt is reason for divorce. This can have drastic consequences not only for you but for your spouse and children. This can be even worse if the debt is shared by both spouses. So at the end of the day, all I will say is instead of generational debt, create generational wealth. Thanks for watching. Do share this video with anyone who might need it and be sure to subscribe.